In relationships, whether romantic, platonic, or professional, the value we place on ourselves and others is crucial to building a healthy, functional dynamic. The problem arises when one person fails to recognize, or even worse, intentionally dismisses the value of the other. This often manifests in subtle, yet telling ways. There are certain behaviors, certain patterns, that signal when someone does not truly value you, and these are the red flags that should not be ignored. One of the first signs that someone might not value you is a consistent lack of respect for your time. Time is one of the most precious resources we have, and when someone treats your time as though it's expendable or not important, they are telling you, whether consciously or not, that you are not a priority in their life. Now, this doesn't always mean that they are overtly dismissive or intentionally disrespectful. Often, it's the small things, constantly being late without a reasonable explanation, canceling plans at the last minute with no genuine excuse, or only reaching out to you when it's convenient for them. In a healthy relationship, both individuals respect each other's time, understanding that time spent together is valuable, that it cannot be taken back, and that effort should be made to preserve it. Consider the underlying message of these actions. If someone repeatedly cancels on you, doesn't show up when they say they will, or is always running behind, what they're really communicating is that their time is more important than yours. The careless treatment of your time is an indication of their lack of consideration for your feelings, priorities, and commitments. It may start small, with an occasional lateness or last-minute change of plans, but when this becomes a pattern, it signals a deeper issue. They don't value you enough to treat your time with the same respect they would expect from others. And this lack of respect can accumulate, leading to resentment and dissatisfaction. Another red flag that points to someone not valuing you is a consistent disregard for your boundaries. Boundaries are essential in any relationship, and when someone does not respect them, they are undermining your sense of self-respect and personal autonomy. These boundaries might be emotional, physical, or psychological, but regardless of the type, they are the lines that help you preserve your well-being and establish healthy dynamics. If someone regularly crosses these lines, ignoring your requests for space, disregarding your needs, or pushing you into uncomfortable situations, it's a clear indication that they don't care about your comfort or your feelings. In any relationship, communication about boundaries is vital. Healthy individuals express their boundaries openly and respect those of others. However, when you are dealing with someone who constantly oversteps, it's not just about the specific act, it's about the underlying message they're sending. When someone ignores your boundaries, they are communicating that they do not value your agency, your comfort, or your needs. They are essentially saying, "My desires and needs matter more than yours." And this message can erode the trust and respect that a relationship is supposed to be built on. One of the more subtle yet equally telling red flags that someone doesn't value you is when they dismiss or belittle your achievements, opinions, or emotions. In a relationship, we are supposed to lift each other up, support each other's goals, and validate one another's feelings. When someone consistently minimizes your accomplishments or brushes off your feelings, it reveals a deep lack of respect for your individuality. It might come across as small, offhand comments about your career or aspirations, or they might undermine your opinions during discussions, belittling your perspective as if it's irrelevant or unimportant. But over time, these small cuts begin to accumulate, eroding your self-esteem and sense of worth. This behavior often takes the form of a type of emotional manipulation, where the person subtly makes you feel as though your thoughts, your emotions, and your achievements are unimportant. When someone continuously dismisses your experiences, you are left questioning your own reality, which can lead to confusion, self-doubt, and a diminished sense of self. The fact that they don't take you seriously or treat your experiences with the gravity they deserve suggests that they don't value you as an equal, but rather as someone who is less than or secondary to their own wants or needs. It's not just about the dismissals, though. It's also about the way they treat you in times of vulnerability. If someone cannot listen to you without making you feel unheard or invalidated, then they are not valuing you. Emotions are complex, and when we express our feelings to another person, we are trusting them to handle our vulnerabilities with care and respect. If instead they dismiss your feelings as insignificant or make you feel like you're being overly sensitive, they are showing you that they are not interested in genuinely understanding you, your needs, or your emotional state. This is an indication that they don't see you as an individual, with your own thoughts, emotions, and complexities. In their eyes, you are just a tool for their own emotional comfort, and your needs are secondary. The final major red flag, perhaps one of the most damaging, is when someone takes more from the relationship than they are willing to give. Relationships, whether they are romantic, friendships, or even familial, should be reciprocal. There should be a balance of give and take, a mutual exchange of care, effort, and consideration. If you find that you are always the one giving, the one putting in the effort, the one making sacrifices, while the other person only takes without ever giving back, it signals a major imbalance in the relationship. This one-sided dynamic can take many forms, whether it's emotional labor, physical effort, time, or resources. If you are constantly the one putting in more without receiving anything in return, it reflects a lack of respect for you and your contribution to the relationship. What happens in these kinds of relationships is that one person becomes an emotional or physical drain, while the other continues to pour their energy into the other person with little or no acknowledgement. This dynamic can make you feel exhausted, undervalued, and unappreciated. It may also lead to resentment, as the person who is always giving starts to feel taken advantage of. They may even begin to doubt their own worth, believing that they need to continue giving in order to be loved or accepted, which is a dangerous and unhealthy belief. When you are continually sacrificing for someone who does not reciprocate, you are reinforcing the message that your needs, your well-being, and your comfort do not matter. In a healthy, balanced relationship, both parties contribute equally, even if that contribution looks different from person to person. The imbalance is a clear red flag. People sometimes fail to recognize these red flags because they are often small and subtle in nature. They may also dismiss them because they do not want to face the uncomfortable truth that someone they care about might not value them the way they deserve. But ignoring these signs can be detrimental. It leads to feelings of disempowerment, frustration, and isolation. It can even cause long-term damage to your mental and emotional well-being. It's crucial then to trust your instincts. Pay attention to how you feel in a relationship. Are you left feeling drained, undervalued, or ignored? Do you feel like your boundaries are constantly being crossed? Are your feelings being dismissed, your time disrespected, or your efforts taken for granted? If the answer is yes, it's important to recognize these red flags for what they are. Clear indications that the other person does not respect, appreciate, or value you. And once you've identified these patterns, it's essential to take action. At the heart of it all, valuing another person is about recognizing their worth as a unique individual, respecting their time, their boundaries, their emotions, and their needs. If someone cannot or will not do this for you, it's a sign that the relationship may not be healthy or fulfilling. You deserve to be with people who treat you as an equal, who support your goals and aspirations, who validate your feelings, and who put in as much effort as you do. Anything less than that is not just a red flag, it's a warning that your well-being may be at risk. Ultimately, recognizing and addressing these red flags is an act of self-respect. It's about standing up for your own value, refusing to settle for relationships that drain you, and seeking out those who see you for who you truly are. It might be uncomfortable at first, but it is the only way to ensure that you surround yourself with people who value you the way you deserve. Because when you value yourself, you set the standard for how others should treat you, and this, in turn, lays the foundation for the healthy, fulfilling relationships we all deserve. A person who truly values you demonstrates respect for your time, emotional boundaries, and personal space. They understand that your time is just as precious as theirs, and they honor your needs by showing up when they say they will, and making sure they don't push you beyond your comfort zones. Disregard for these boundaries is a clear sign of disrespect and a lack of genuine care. Healthy relationships are rooted in a balance of give and take. If one person is consistently taking, without offering anything in return, whether it's emotional support, effort, or time, they are not valuing you as an equal. Genuine relationships are built on mutual contribution, where both individuals invest in the relationship and prioritize each other's well-being. Time is one of the most valuable resources we possess. Once spent, it cannot be reclaimed, which is why how we choose to spend our time and with whom we choose to share it is of utmost importance. The people we allow into our lives must respect this precious resource, particularly when it comes to the time we dedicate to them. This respect isn't just about the logistics of scheduling or keeping appointments, though those are important. It's about understanding the deeper message behind how time is treated. When someone truly values you, they acknowledge the importance of your time. They don't take it for granted, and they don't treat it as something that can be easily wasted or dismissed. This might seem like a small thing, but the repeated disrespect of your time over time signals a lack of consideration and ultimately a lack of care. Time spent with others is an investment, and when someone is consistently late, cancels plans without warning, or fails to show up when they say they will, they're signaling that they don't value the time you've chosen to spend with them. But it's not just about physical presence. Time is about intention. If someone is frequently distracted when you're together, constantly checking their phone or distracted by other things while you're in the middle of a conversation, it's another sign that they don't value the time you're giving them. In a way, it's as though their attention is divided, and you're not worthy of their undivided focus. They might not say it explicitly, but their actions speak volumes. Your time matters, your presence matters, and when someone can't honor that by simply being present physically or emotionally, it's a form of disrespect. There are also the more subtle aspects of time that are often overlooked. A person who genuinely respects you will understand the value of your time outside of your interactions with them. They won't make unreasonable demands on your schedule or make you feel guilty for taking time for yourself or prioritizing other commitments. People who don't respect your time, on the other hand, might try to monopolize your attention, making you feel as though you have no other obligations or needs outside of them. They may even make you feel selfish for taking time for your own personal growth, work, or self-care. This type of manipulation is insidious because it often disguises itself as affection or care when, in reality, it's a way of diminishing your other priorities in favor of their own needs. What makes these behaviors particularly dangerous is how they can start small, often unnoticed at first. A few minutes late here, a canceled plan there, an ignored text message, or missed call. But as these patterns repeat, they begin to create a sense of frustration, disappointment, and even self-doubt. The more someone disregards your time, the more it can leave you questioning whether you're worth their effort, whether your time is valuable to them, or whether they even care enough to try. Over time, this constant underestimation of your time can lead to a shift in your perception of yourself, where you might begin to feel unimportant or unworthy. This slow erosion of self-worth can be far more damaging than an outright act of disrespect. Boundaries, like time, are often a reflection of how much someone values you, but they go beyond just the surface level. Boundaries are deeply personal, and they are essential in protecting your emotional, mental, and physical well-being. In any relationship, whether it's romantic, platonic, or professional, boundaries are the invisible lines we draw that help us preserve our sense of self, our needs, and our desires. They allow us to establish a healthy sense of autonomy and define where we end and where others begin. When someone truly values you, they recognize and respect your boundaries. They understand that your comfort is just as important as theirs, and they won't push you into uncomfortable or compromising situations. Boundaries can take many forms: emotional boundaries, physical boundaries, psychological boundaries, and even time-based boundaries. They can be as simple as asking for space when you need it, or as complex as refusing to engage in certain topics of conversation because they make you uncomfortable. But regardless of the type, they are essential to creating a relationship where both people feel safe, respected, and valued. When someone continually pushes or ignores your boundaries, they are sending a message that your needs and comfort do not matter. They are essentially telling you that their desires or preferences supersede yours, and this is not just a minor lapse in judgment, it's a fundamental violation of trust. If someone can't respect your emotional boundaries, for example, by constantly dismissing your feelings or invalidating your emotions, it's a clear indication that they don't understand the importance of creating a safe and supportive environment for you. If they disregard your physical boundaries by touching you in ways that make you uncomfortable or pressuring you into doing things you're not ready for, it signals a profound disrespect for your autonomy and your body. And if they continually encroach on your psychological boundaries by overwhelming you with their problems, ignoring your need for personal space, or demanding too much emotional labor from you, they are violating the trust that should be the foundation of any healthy relationship. At the heart of boundary respect is the idea that each person in a relationship has their own individual needs, feelings, and desires that must be acknowledged. It's not about trying to control the other person or trying to get them to conform to your expectations. Instead, it's about recognizing that both people in the relationship are autonomous individuals with their own lives, and these lives deserve to be respected. A healthy relationship doesn't require one person to sacrifice their own needs for the sake of the other. Instead, it allows for both people to express themselves freely, to have their needs met, and to maintain a sense of independence and identity within the relationship. But boundary violations often go unnoticed at first, just as disrespect for time can. You may dismiss the first few instances as minor or think that you're being overly sensitive. But as these violations accumulate, they begin to chip away at the foundation of the relationship. If you constantly feel pressured to say yes when you want to say no, or if you find yourself compromising your own values or needs to accommodate the other person's desires, it's a sign that your boundaries are not being respected. And when your boundaries are consistently ignored, it can leave you feeling drained, resentful, and disconnected from the person who is supposed to be your partner, friend, or ally. This disregard for boundaries also impacts the emotional dynamics of the relationship. Over time, it can lead to a breakdown in trust and communication. When your boundaries are constantly overstepped, it can create a feeling of powerlessness. You begin to question whether you have the right to assert yourself or whether you are being selfish for asking for your needs to be respected. This creates a dangerous cycle where you feel more and more disconnected from your own desires and needs, and ultimately from the other person. When someone doesn't respect your boundaries, it erodes your sense of self-respect and can lead to feelings of guilt, shame, and frustration. It's also worth noting that boundaries are not just about saying no to others, they're also about saying yes to yourself. Setting boundaries is about honoring your own worth and ensuring that your needs are met just as much as anyone else's. When you fail to set boundaries either out of fear of conflict, desire for approval, or simply because you don't want to upset the other person, you're not allowing yourself the space to grow and thrive as an individual. This self-neglect can be incredibly damaging in the long run, both to your emotional health and to the relationship itself. When someone values you, they encourage you to set and enforce your boundaries. They don't see your limits as a threat to the relationship. They see them as a necessary part of healthy interaction. They understand that boundaries are a sign of self-respect and mutual regard, not a sign of rejection or distance. A person who truly cares about you will encourage you to protect yourself, to prioritize your own well-being, and to assert your needs in a way that is respectful to both parties. They will listen when you express your boundaries, and they will adjust their behavior accordingly. This is the essence of mutual respect and trust, and it creates a relationship where both people feel secure and valued. When mutual effort is present, the relationship feels like a team effort. Each person is invested in the other's happiness, growth, and success. They listen to each other's needs, respond to those needs with care, and take active steps to ensure the other person feels seen, heard, and valued. This might mean offering a kind word when things are tough, making sacrifices to ensure the other person's comfort, or simply being there in times of need. The effort doesn't have to be grand or overt all the time. It's the small, everyday actions that add up over time to build a strong foundation of support and trust. However, this balance of effort can be easily disrupted when one person in the relationship feels as though they are always the one giving. In these cases, resentment can begin to grow. If one individual is constantly providing emotional support, making all the plans, or handling all of the responsibilities, they can begin to feel as though they are carrying the weight of the relationship alone. This one-sided dynamic can be exhausting and disheartening, especially when the other person seems indifferent, disengaged, or unwilling to reciprocate. Over time, the person who is doing all the giving may start to feel taken for granted, overlooked, or even invisible in the relationship. On the flip side, when a person is always receiving without giving anything in return, it creates an imbalance of power and dependence. One person may feel like they are being used or manipulated, while the other might feel entitled to the care and attention of their partner without offering anything in exchange. This dynamic creates a sense of inequality, and one person may begin to feel resentful or frustrated that they are continually expected to give without receiving the support, care, or validation they need. A relationship where there is a lack of reciprocity can feel unfulfilling, empty, and emotionally draining, leading to dissatisfaction and eventual breakdown. The danger of this kind of imbalance is that it can be difficult to notice at first. Small imbalances in effort or reciprocity may go unnoticed, especially early on in a relationship. People might be excited or eager to please, focusing only on the initial stages of the connection. But as time goes on, the cracks in the foundation begin to show. If one person is always the one initiating contact, making all the effort to maintain the relationship, or constantly putting in more emotional labor than the other, it begins to take a toll. The emotional exhaustion becomes more palpable, and the sense of being undervalued grows. Over time, this can lead to feelings of resentment, frustration, and even burnout. In healthy relationships, both individuals feel valued not just for what they can give, but for who they are. Mutual effort and reciprocity aren't about keeping score or expecting equal exchanges all the time. They're about understanding that relationships require ongoing work from both parties, and that work should be fueled by a genuine desire to support and care for each other. A relationship that thrives on mutual effort is one where both people feel seen, appreciated, and understood, and where both people are committed to making the other's life better. The balance of effort and reciprocity doesn't just apply to emotional or practical aspects of the relationship, it also extends to values, respect, and trust. It's important to remember that effort in relationships isn't always about physical gestures or tangible actions. Sometimes it's about showing up for each other in ways that are more subtle but equally significant. For example, offering emotional validation, providing encouragement during challenging times, and supporting each other's growth and goals are all ways to demonstrate effort and commitment. Reciprocity here means that both individuals are equally invested in the success and well-being of the other, and they support each other not just in words, but in action. This dynamic extends to conflict resolution as well. When disagreements or challenges arise, the effort put into resolving them is equally important. In a healthy relationship, both individuals are willing to work through issues with mutual respect and understanding, valuing the relationship more than their individual pride. Both people should be able to express their feelings and concerns openly, while also being willing to listen and compromise. If one person is always the peacemaker, constantly putting in the effort to mend the relationship after conflict, the other may begin to feel frustrated and unheard. On the other hand, if both individuals are equally willing to engage in constructive dialogue and seek resolution, it strengthens the relationship and reinforces the idea that both parties are committed to making it work. Reciprocity is also about mutual appreciation. When effort is reciprocated, it's not just about the practical actions taken to help or support each other, it's also about acknowledging and appreciating the other person's contributions. This might mean expressing gratitude for the small things, recognizing the sacrifices the other person makes, or offering kind words of affirmation. Without appreciation, even the most generous efforts can feel hollow. In relationships where appreciation is lacking, one person may start to feel as though their efforts are unrecognized or undervalued. Acknowledgement of the effort put into maintaining the relationship is vital for reinforcing the emotional connection and ensuring that both individuals feel cared for. When both people are equally invested in the relationship, it creates a dynamic of shared responsibility. This is particularly important in romantic relationships, where each person should feel that they are contributing to the health and success of the partnership. The relationship becomes a space where both individuals can lean on each other, celebrate successes together, and support each other through challenges. When there is a genuine sense of teamwork, it creates an environment where both parties feel safe, understood, and valued. However, one of the most challenging aspects of mutual effort and reciprocity is recognizing when it's not present. In some relationships, people may fall into patterns of behavior where one person is constantly overgiving and the other is undergiving, yet neither party acknowledges the imbalance. This can happen for a number of reasons: fear of conflict, insecurity, or a belief that things will improve on their own. Sometimes people may feel that by giving more, they will gain the affection or approval they desire from the other person. But this imbalance only perpetuates a cycle of emotional depletion and frustration. If one person feels that they are always the one putting in the effort and never receiving the same level of commitment, they may eventually begin to withdraw emotionally or physically from the relationship, leading to feelings of isolation and disconnection. The key to breaking these cycles lies in open, honest communication. Both parties must be willing to acknowledge the imbalance and work together to address it. This doesn't mean that every aspect of the relationship needs to be perfectly balanced at all times, but it does require a willingness to assess the dynamic and make adjustments when needed. This can be a difficult conversation to have, especially if one person feels uncomfortable acknowledging their lack of effort or reciprocity, but it's a necessary step in creating a more balanced and fulfilling connection. Mutual effort and reciprocity aren't just the pillars of healthy romantic relationships. they are also essential in friendships, family dynamics, and professional partnerships. In all of these contexts, when both parties are committed to equally contributing, the relationship feels more supportive, meaningful, and strong. But when one person is doing all the work and the other is passively benefiting, it creates a disconnect that can undermine the entire relationship. The balance of giving and receiving is what allows people to feel valued, respected, and cared for. And it is this balance that ultimately ensures that relationships remain fulfilling and sustainable. It's important to note that reciprocity doesn't always mean a direct, equal exchange of the same things. The effort you put into a relationship may look different from the effort your partner or friend puts in, and that's okay. What matters is the intention behind the effort and the recognition that both people are putting in the work to maintain the relationship. It's the emotional exchange that counts, the understanding that both parties are equally invested in making the relationship a positive and nurturing space. When mutual effort and reciprocity are present, relationships flourish. People feel appreciated, supported, and valued. They feel seen, heard, and understood. But when these qualities are absent, the relationship begins to wither. One person may begin to feel exhausted, unappreciated, and drained. The other may feel disconnected, isolated, or uncertain of their place in the relationship. The key is to recognize when this imbalance is occurring and to take proactive steps to restore balance through open communication, understanding, and mutual effort. It is only through mutual effort and reciprocity that relationships can truly thrive and stand the test of time.